Hey guys, Dave and Len here. This is Wargame Chat number 5, and we're going to talk about microgames. So here's one to talk about. Here's Ogre, the microgame. They call it the Pocket Edition. This is the re-release of it. The first version was sold, I don't know, the late 1970s, early 1980s for $2.95. I don't know, it must have been about 8 years ago, I think, maybe. They re-released it for exactly $2.95. So I was at Games Plus, and they had a box of like 10 of these. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, where did you guys get these things? And they're like, no, it's been re-released. It said $2.95 on it. So I asked them, I said, how much is it really? And they said $2.95, so I immediately bought one. Great game. This is probably Steve Jackson's best game ever made. He's got miniature rules for it too, and there's a bigger board game version and stuff. Essentially, there's a super duper tank called an Ogre, and you have to use your vehicles to try and destroy it. You can do track damage to it and regular damage to it and stuff. It's like a David versus Goliath game, but it's very simple, but it's very fun. You like this when we played. We played this several times.
The old quantity versus quality.
Yeah.
Because one thing that was good about that is that even though you have inferior tanks, you got a number of them, and you could start you start punching holes in it. You knock off a few missiles or guns, or it slows down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I was thinking of World War II when the Tiger tank appeared. Germans didn't have that many Tiger tanks, but when they appeared, you were scared as hell.
I was at Little Wars. This was about. Well, I go to Little Wars every year. But I don't know, this must have been 20 years ago. Some guy put on an Ogre game with miniatures. That was the best science fiction game I ever played in my life. I mean, I've played Ogre with miniatures many times, but this guy had like the best terrain I'd ever seen in my life and stuff. It was just fantastic. And there were several Ogres, actually. And some of them were hidden, so when you moved towards a certain piece of terrain, the Ogre would appear and stuff. That was the most fun I ever had in any science fiction game. It was even better than Warhammer 40K.
Wow. Yeah.
You ever play this at the conventions? Or?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I did once do a Mech Warrior a couple of years ago.
How was that?
When it came out, when did it come out? In the 90s?
BattleTech came first. That was in the 1980s, or it was either the late 1980s. I think I was in high school when that came out, possibly, or was it at the end of grade school? So I would say it probably came out mid to late 80s.
Well, I remember when it came out, I looked at it and said, "Boy, if I was 10 years old, this would be my favorite game." But at that time, I had too many tanks and tanks, airplanes, and armored ships historical ships to bother with Mech Warriors.
Yeah, BattleTech was interesting because it was kind of almost like naval combat, where you're constantly doing damage to other ships. In this case, you're doing damage to the mechs and stuff. But the one thing that was interesting about it is the mechs could overheat, and if you start getting too hot, you could do something like run over to a stream and the mech could put its feet in there, and it would help it cool off faster and stuff. So that's kind of an interesting thing about it that you didn't see in other science fiction games. And you got to custom build most scenarios you would custom build your own mechs and stuff, so that was cool too. So if you like customizing your forces every time you play a game, well, that's a good game for you.
Because a couple of years ago at a science fiction convention, since the panels were ultra boring that year, I participated in the game, and it was fun. Like I said, if I was 10 years old, it would have been great fun. So.
I know there was a group that used to go to Games Plus, and I think every month they put on a BattleTech game, and they have been doing it for years. I don't know if they still do or not, but many times when I used to go there to play Flames of War, BattleTech guys would have some huge BattleTech games going. They always looked pretty cool. Unfortunately, I was playing Flames of War, so I wasn't able to join in, but... What are some of the old metagaming microgames that you like? I remember we liked Rommel's Panzers and Stalin's Tanks. Stalin's Tanks is the best of the metagaming microgames, in my opinion. I had the most fun playing that one.
They had the best tanks. What was the War Galley?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. The not Trireme, Ram Speed, I believe it's called. Yeah, that's a really good one too. That's the one where I bought the miniatures and painted them up. and we were playing them with miniatures. Yeah, that's a really good one too. It's got all the minimum things you would need for a trireme game and nothing else, which makes it awesome for a micro game, because all the basics are there, and if you're not satisfied with just the basics, there's nothing to say you can't add a few rules to make it a little bit more detailed or complex.
Yeah, I was about to say, I had an idea, I never pulled it off, that you could easily take that game out, put it on a map, and do an historical battle. There's what was that, Salamis, the famous battle? I always want to do that with a ram speed system.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually.
Didn't they also have one Fire When Ready?
Yeah, we played that once. I thought I didn't get into it that much. It wasn't bad or anything. I didn't get into it that much, but some people really love that game.
Well, the thing is, the system is good. The problem is the historical scenarios in that period are just one-sided. You just can't help that.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you'd start, if they had put up like a fleet list, and I could take like my Russian ships versus your British ships, we could have seen our many what ifs. But
it's a bunch of stuff from Task Force Games. They've put out, some of it's good, some of it's pretty mediocre, but there's a bunch I haven't tried yet. Like, I think, what is one called? I
have to check Task Force Games.
There's that one where everyone's fighting on the moon, and Microgame Design Group, the guy who owns that made it, and then later on in his own company, what he said, I can't remember the name of the game. I'll post it on the screen when I edit this video. But what he said is when he gave it to Task Force Games, they had changed his rules, and he didn't like the way they changed them. So when he had his own company, he re-released the game under another name with the original rules, which he believes is better. So I have the original game from Task Force Games. I don't have the Micro Game Design Group version.
One thing, metagaming, Melee.
Yeah, that's true. That is a good one.
Because with Melee, it's one game that I occasionally, every few years, get back and try it again. And also, I've done stuff like I've used the system on other maps. Like I think the Cry Havoc series has all these like medieval maps. So, you could shoot it out there. Battle it out. You make your own rules for terrain. Because that's the one thing they chickened out, is they put in an arena so they didn't have to write terrain rules. Yeah,
one thing about Melee I liked, I think it was something, Steve Jackson Games re-released that. Now it has die-cut counters and stuff. The new version's nice. It's in a plastic box. That's what I have, the new version, and the new version of Wizard. What I liked about it is, I think it was Spears. Spears gave you some advantage. I can't remember what it was, but most games... for Melee, they don't really differentiate between spears and like a sword or a club very much. They might allow you to throw the spear, but occasionally you'll get a nice game where they'll do something like the new D&D, a spear gives you 10-foot reach instead of a 5-foot reach. Steve Jackson did something with it. Maybe you went first or something. I forget what it was, but there's something they did with spears.
I know if you had a pike, you can stick it on people 2 hexes away.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah, but that was nice. Yeah, Melee's a good game. It's just fun.
Because I think that was the advantage. You get like an extra hex. Because basically spears are just sticks with knives at the end of it, so they don't hurt that. They don't hurt as much as a sword.
Yeah, you get stabbed by it though. Through the lungs, your history.
If you don't have armor, it's bad news.
True. Yeah. They're good for taking people off horses too.
Yeah. So, TSR had a Viking game.
Right.
Was it called Viking or Viking Raiders?
Yeah, actually, I think I bought it from you. I haven't played it yet. You've probably played it though. Yeah, that's one I still need to play. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, before I sold it, I looked at it and said I only played the first scenario, and there's like about 3-4 of them. So I played the others before I sold it, and actually the other scenarios are much more fun.
That's good.
Oh, we forgot about Sticks and Stones.
I just came to mind too. That's got some good scenarios too. I mean, there's one scenario I don't like, but the rest are good. And the solitaire scenario where you're doing the mammoth hunt is just pure fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one. I'd like to see that re-released one day, but who knows, the author may no longer be with us, so I mean, you can't re-release it unless you get permission from the copyright holder.
Yeah, and the copyright holder may not be in business.
Right, he might not be alive, so we...
So, okay. Decision Games have done a bunch of mini games and folio games.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, one mini game that noteworthy was the Kaysan one.
Yeah, and Suez 56, they both used the Cold War Blitz rules. Both of those were good, but Kaysan was the best of the two, but Suez 56 was still good. I wish they'd come out with another game from the Cold War Blitz rules. And then they had a game that seems like I'm the only one who likes it, Phobos Rising. That was just fantastic. It plays kind of like a Euro. I thought it was great. Some of the other reviewers basically said it was one of the worst games they played, but well, what can I say? When I play it, I have fun, so I don't know what to tell you.
And another mini game they have is Belisarius' War. For me, that's noteworthy.
Yeah, that looked good.
I thought that playing the Vandal would be like the dullest thing imaginable. But if you're a defensive-minded player, this is a great challenge, and you have a lot of space and time. You know, you have the space to trade for time, and Belisarius has to move fast or lose.
True.
So the Vandal War seemed like a nothing historically, but I had to look back and yeah, okay, I forgot they did have more than that North African area.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then there was the other sister game to it, the one about Julius Caesar and Gaul. I can't remember the name of it. I mean, that one was good. It just wasn't as good as Belisarius' War.
There was something about it. It just never felt right.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, there's something about... I just recently read Caesar's commentaries, and the mini game doesn't feel right. I'm not sure what it was.
True. One thing cool about that... what do they call his commentaries? Well, it's a book now.
Commentaries.
Yeah, about the Gallic War or something.
Yeah, the Gallic Wars, I think.
Yeah.
Either it's called Commentaries on Gallic War or just Caesar's Gallic Wars.
One thing, if you get a chance, pick up that book, because it's actually Julius Caesar's writings, and there's some interesting stuff you don't learn in your history classes, like when Julius Caesar would go to a village, he would basically take hostages and stuff and make them allies and tell them, if you behave, you'll get your hostages back later. If you don't, we're going to kill them. So, I mean, that's the type of stuff they would do back then to keep the tribes in check. I mean, you couldn't do anything like that in the modern era, because that would be against the laws of war and stuff, but there were no laws of war back then. I mean, that was back in the days where if you lost the battle... And if you weren't murdered by your enemy troops, you would be sold into slavery, or you'd be made a gladiator or something. So yeah,
same thing.
Yeah.
Also, the minigame Hawaii 1795. Actually, I thought
you like that one?
Yeah, actually, I thought that was challenging, more than I expected. And that's more of a strategy game, because I think a lot of people would like it more as a battle or a skirmish game where you line up on the beach and kill each other. But actually, you know, you have choices on where to go and what to do. And also they have a number of air campaigns. Yeah,
those are really good. The Mech one's okay, but there's the other one, Cactus Air Force. That's the one to get. That one's really good. It's good solo or playing with another player, and it's like $15. So if you see it, definitely pick it up.
Actually, I like Red Eagle, which was the Cuban campaign.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think I reviewed that too. That was a good game.
Yeah, and they have a folio series, which is like it's like bigger than a mini game, but not as big as, you know, in between. And they have one part called the Fire and Movement series, which is mostly World War II modern combat. And 3 games that I noted from those is, first of all, Saipan. This is a great folio game. I changed the rules about Japanese replacements. Instead of getting 2 steps back every turn, you have 28 steps total, and you could spend it all through the game. And what happens if you just get 2 steps in the game, Japanese can make a last stand in the mountain in the middle of the map and actually possibly win, because the victory conditions are if Japanese have 1 guy left, they've won. But with 28 steps, what happens is the first 4 or 5 turns, Japanese take losses, but they rebuild real fast. So the Americans have a tough time. Every time they push through a little bit, there's a new line. But then at that certain point, even the Americans' offensive ability is lessened because they took too many taking losses. But the Japanese suddenly can't replace things, so their army begins to shrink each turn. So even if they go to that mountain center, the fire movement system is a system that favors the defense. And unless you get enormously good attack odds, attack strength, there's a lot of exchanges. So even if they try to hole up in the mountains, well, there's no replacement, so you could wear them down. So, Aachen, the first German city taken, what I like about this is that Americans spend most of the game
is it a folio game or? I gotcha.
Yeah, folio. You punch through the Siegfried line, and you fight your way through the city, and you have to get units off the east edge of the map for extra points. And you're about ready to do it, and they come in with reinforcements, and they start counterattacking. Since it's a point game, you know how many steps you lose and everything. And of course, Bastogne is a good example of that's another good one.
Yeah, here's one. Remember, this one's from Tiny Battle Publishing, I believe. New Schwabenland. Remember that one?
Oh,
that's the one where the Nazis are in Antarctica and are being attacked by alien worms and stuff.
Yes.
that was great. I played every scenario in that. That's a great game. A lot of fun.
They should have had like an optional rule. Admiral Berg and his fleet comes and attacks the Nazis. That's what some people claim. I don't know.
I should make some new scenarios for that since I've played all the scenarios, and it is just so much fun to play. Great game.
Yeah, or didn't they have a different set of aliens, or that's something else?
I can't remember. I think it was just a one set of aliens, that was it.
Okay.
But it played better solo than 2-player because the aliens kind of don't have that many choices, whereas the Germans have quite a bit of choices, including like choosing what equipment to have and so forth.
So, all right. That's all I can think about off the top of my head.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll have something new for Wargame Chat next week. Good seeing you.
All right.